I love the guitar part. I knew from the guitar part that he had been a student of Reverend Gary Davis's before I did it. You hear all that moving bass stuff against the treble, you know, you studied with the Reverend. I wish there was more of it. Speaking of songs there should be more of. I don't know, you guys are still eating, so maybe you can't sing. Yeah? All right. Well, you could help me with this one. That's the way that the world goes round. You're up one day, the next you're down. Half an inch of water and you think you're gonna drown. That's the way that the world goes round. Gonna help me now? That's the way that the world goes round. You're up one day, the next you're down. A half an inch of water and you think you're gonna drown. That's the way that the world goes round. Well, I know a gal, she got a lot to lose. She's a real sweet woman, just a little confused. She got muscles in her head she ain't never used. Thinks she owns half of the town. Oh, she go out drunk, get an itchy nose, come home and hit her husband with a rubber hose, then take him out to dinner and buy him new clothes. That's the way that the world goes round. That's the way that the world goes round. You're up, oh, half an inch of water and you think you're gonna drown. That's the way that the world goes round. I was sitting in the bathtub counting my toes when the radiator broke and the water all froze. Stuck in the ice without any clothes, naked as the eyes of a clown. I was crying ice cubes, hoping I'd croak when the sun come through the window when the ice all broke. Got up and laughed, I thought it was a joke. That's the way that the world goes round. That's the way that the world goes round. You're up, the next, a half an inch of water and you think you're gonna drown. That's the way that the world goes round. It's a good song. John Prine wrote it. He didn't write enough of it. That's all there is. I complained to him about it. I said, this song needs more verses. Write some more verses. He said, I already wrote 2. You write them. I said, I won't tell you what I said. We're good enough friends I could say that to him. And in truth, I have a couple of stories that would make great verses, but you can't compress them into a verse. So I'll tell them to you. I'll get in trouble, but I'll tell them. Dreaded New York City for 12 years. I loved it. And I had this great dog. I mean, this was a wonderful animal. But I had him a long time. And as happens to all of us, this dog went on to a better place. He died. Well, what are you going to do with the remains of a dog in New York City? You can't take him out back and bury him. Not unless you got a jackhammer that can go through concrete or something. So I looked up the ASPCA and I called them up. They were in New Jersey. And I told them, and they said, well, bring them here. I said, what, to New Jersey? He said, no, to Neptune. That's kind of how they talk in New Jersey. I left out the expletives. I said, look, I'm a New Yorker. I don't have a car. Because I asked for directions. He said, well, you take the New Jersey Turnpike. I said, I don't have a car. I can't take the New Jersey Turnpike at all. He said, well, then take a bus. You want me to get on a bus with a dead dog in my arms? I said, no, put him in a box. I said, you don't understand, this is a big dog. Well, find an old suitcase or a duffel bag or something. Okay. So I go down to the Port Authority bus terminal, and he told me what bus to get on. I'm about to get on the bus, and I realize I don't know exactly where to get off, or where to go when I get off. I mean, I could always find people that tell me where to get off in New York City. Anyhow, I find a phone booth. Children, back in the day, there were these things they called phone booths. There were these little tiny cubicles. Never mind. Anyhow, I had the number of the SPCA, and I called them up again. I got the same guy, and I got the directions. Came out of the phone booth, and somebody had stole the duffel bag. I just would have liked to have seen the look on that junkie's face when he opened the thing. That's the way that the world goes round. A half an inch of water and you're thinking, that's the way that the world goes round. Which reminds me of another story. I started out playing in these places that they called basket houses. They called them that because the room did not pay you any money at all. They generously allowed you to sing. And afterwards you could pass around a bread basket and hope people would put money in it. We got all kinds of things in those baskets. Sometimes money. People never believed that we weren't getting paid because they were paying, in the 60s, $4 for a Coca-Cola. Anyhow, some people came and heard us, and they hired a whole bunch of us to play at their party. These people were rich from having money. And for us, this was a big time. We were going to play a gig for a predetermined sum of money. So we saved up enough money to take the train, New York Central, up to Scarsdale. And there was this car that met us. Big car. We were cool about it. Look at this car! This thing's bigger than my apartment! A lot nicer. And they took us to the party. And we played. And these people were really nice people, and they were very generous. They let us eat the same food that the guests had. I know this doesn't seem like much to you, but musicians very seldom get to eat the same food that the guests had at a party. And they told us we could help ourselves, you know, just go up to the bar, get a drink if you want one. A couple of us got a drink. One of the guys, who shall remain nameless, his initials were Charlie Chin. He was a little embarrassed about, after he'd asked for the first drink, he was embarrassed about going back for another. So he'd walk around and find drinks that were abandoned and down them. He got sick. No way we were going to take him back on the train with us. The people were very sweet. They said, you can spend the night here. And that's what he did. He stayed there that night. He showed up in Greenwich Village the next day looking a little sheepish. And it was a couple of weeks before he said anything about it. Evidently, They put him in a room that was yellow. Everything in the room was yellow. Walls were yellow, ceiling was yellow, carpet was yellow, bedspread was yellow, sheets were yellow, pillow was yellow, desk was yellow. Everything in the room was yellow except for the bottle of Black India ink he knocked over in the middle of the night on his way to the bathroom. There were black hand and footprints everywhere. In the morning he saw all this stuff, went out the window. He was on the ground floor. He went out the window and he ran back to the train station looking behind him all the time and took the train back to New York. Well, we talked about it and we decided that just to leave it like that was bad karma. Children, back in the day, there was this thing called karma. So he decided he was going to go back and face them and apologize. So he took the money he'd earned for the show and he bought a round-trip ticket up to Scarsdale. He didn't tell him he was coming, so there was no car meeting him, but he knew the way. He walked to the house and he rang the front door, and maid answered the door, said he wanted to speak to the lady of the house. She showed him into the living room, and he's looking around at all this expensive stuff, and he ain't gonna touch shit. So he's looking around, and as he's looking around, he sits down, and as he sits down, he hears a loud crunch. It was the Chihuahua. He killed it. Ran out the door, back to the train station, back to the village. Well, that's the way that the world goes round. You're up one day, next you're down a half an inch of water, and you think you're gonna drown. That's the way that the world goes round. That's the way that the world goes round. That's the way that the world goes round.